All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Torquing down the main caps here. This is the book we're using to get the sequence and the torque specs out of. I'm sure you can pick that up at Barnes & Nobles or Amazon or whatever. So the sequence is that one. Right, James?
Yes, sir.
This is James's book. He's holding the camera, so he's gonna point me in the right direction here. So the first round is gonna be 15 foot-pounds, and then we're gonna torque the second round to 80, correct?
It's 15 foot-pounds on all of them, and then it's degrees.
Right, degrees, and then...
That's it.
Oh, I thought you said 80 somewhere. Okay. So
yeah, it's 80 degrees on the first ones.
80 degrees. Okay.
And then 51, 53 on the outsides.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do. I think this is the first one, so we'll do a couple here. I'm not gonna bore you with, doing all these. It's pretty self-explanatory. So we'll do a couple, and then we'll just fast forward it to the end. So sit tight.
All right.
Well, there you have it. The first round's done.
And now we'll do the outers.
Same sequence?
Yes, sir.
All right. We got the first round of all of them torqued down to 15 now. Now we're doing the 80 degree. So my buddy James here has this fancy little snap-on torque wrench that gives you degrees on the display. So that's what we're going to use. It's basically going to be the same thing. You're going to go with the inside 13 millimeter ones in the sequence that we just did before, but at 80 degrees like of an angle. So we'll do that, and then we'll do the outers with the 15 millimeter, and that should be done, and we'll check the clearance. Sit tight. Oh, there it is. You want to come over here just so we can see it? So James is going to show you what I'm looking at here. Ready? So here we go. There goes the degrees. Can you see it on there?
I think so, yeah.
There it is. So, and that's it. You just do the rest of them that way in the same sequence that you torqued them, and you'll be done shortly.
And enjoy a libation while Chris works.
Yeah, Tyson's over there getting drunk.
And on this one, the inners go to 80 degrees after the 15 foot-pounds of torque. The outers go to, I think it's 51 to 53, if I remember right. 51 to 53 degrees, that is. And then we'll put in the side bolts.
Does it say record on there?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on, pissy.
I know. We don't know much of that.
Maybe we get a sponsorship. Put it in there.
No. No. All right, guys. Just want to show you what we're doing on these heads. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm going through and replacing the valve seals. You can see the new ones here. The old ones I've already pulled off and thrown in the trash, and then we're putting new springs on, which you can see on that head. I've already done there
Shout out Texas Speed
for the valve springs.
and the cam
There you go. But
and the push rods.
push rods too. Okay. So I just wanted to show you how you pull the old ones off. You just use some channel locks or something if you can break them off, and there's a ton of oil under there, but it's no big deal. Just put that on there, and then I just use a socket, rubber mallet, rubber, not a hammer. Just smack it a couple times, and then it seats on there. And then once I get the little the valve spring tool and stuff set up, we'll show you guys how exactly I'm doing that.
Roger, Dodger.
Yep. All right, so just want to show you guys a little more on these heads here. So you can see I made some progress. I got these guys on, and what I wanted to show you is this little tool here. So it works in conjunction with the rocker plate. I don't know exactly what the right word for this thing is, but that's what it is. So this bolts into the same studs there, or the holes as the rockers, and then you just get this little tool here. You run it down, tighten it up. It pushes the springs down, then you can put the clips in. I'll show you a clip here.
Hold on. Focus. There it goes.
So you put these little clips in, just on the valve stems, and then they catch as soon as you I'll show you now when I back it out. The clips will catch and hold the valves and the springs in.
So how do you put the clips in? You tighten that thing?
Yeah, you tighten it down, which compresses the springs all the way down, and that allows you to put the clips in when the springs are compressed and the valve stems are sticking up.
Do you have to hold the valves in, or will the valves fall down? Does something hold
As long as the valve seals are in right here,
that holds them up.
those will hold the valves. Yeah,
All right, gotcha.
for the most part. Every once in a while, you got to push them back up, but for the most part, they'll hold the valves in, compress the springs with the tool, put the little clips in, release the pressure. The valve springs come up, catch the clips, good to go.
Roger that.
All right.
You press on.
Keepers.
Some bitch.
Keepers, yes, not clips.
Keepers.
Clips go in your hair, pony boy.
Get it right. James, he's over there working on the block.
There you go.
We're putting the pistons in right now. We'll come back to that in a little bit, but we almost got them all in. We'll show you us doing the last few of them. But we'll be back. We are putting the pistons in right now. So we pretty much have 7 of them in. I'll show you the process of getting that last one in here and how we do it. So what we do is, first of all, these rod bolts are torque to yield. So I replace these little bushings. You can see the collar sliding on here. See that collar?
Hang on, give it a second to focus. Or not. Yeah, try that. There you go.
But this little collar that slides on here, this is brand new with the bolts I got, just GM rod bolts. These are torque to yield. If you don't know what that means, when you torque them, they kind of stretch. So if you were to replace them, they won't stretch again. Or if you don't replace them, they don't stretch again, so they won't hold their torque like they're supposed to. So you got to replace them with new ones that stretch when you torque them out. So sometimes this collar will be lodged in here. You just got to knock it out. But either way, these bolts have new collars on them. When you torque it down, they'll press themselves in there and do their job. So we got those. The rings, we did gap the rings for boost since we're going to run a turbo on this. And when you gap the rings, sometimes you'll leave like little burrs. So what we're going to do with these here is get this file and just lightly run over the ring. Just make sure there's no burrs hanging out that's going to scratch your cylinder walls, because you definitely don't want that. And then as soon as we get this done, then we'll pop the rings in there, and then I'll hand them off to James, and I'm going to let him explain to you how he sets these rings in. Basically, feel it. Just make sure you don't feel any burrs or sharp edges. That's going to cut your fingers or gloves. We'll do the second one. All right, feels smooth. I'm happy with that. So we'll proceed. So this was the piston that came out of this hole, and we got these rings to the same hole here. So looks like the oil ring here. We got this new set of rings. So we're gonna put this one in first, in the very bottom. It's pretty easy. It just slides right on there, and there's little. You probably won't be able to see it, but there's little shelves kind of on the back to where you basically have to put this one on first before you can put. There's one that goes on top of this and on the bottom. So you have to put this one in first, and then you can put the top and the bottom one. I'll show you. All right, I don't know how close I'm gonna have to get here, but if you can see this little ring right here, can you see it?
You're good.
So we'll put this one. We'll put this on the bottom, and you just kind of run it around. These guys are easy here. There we go. So you see that one on the bottom. So then we're going to get this other one. It's pretty much the exact same. It's just going to go on the top of that. All right. Same thing. So we'll kind of get, can you see it? We'll get this one set in the top and just run it around. Get it on there. And we're in. Just like that. So you got that in. We'll get these oriented later. So one of the compression rings here, I don't know if you can see that. See the one with the dot right here?
You can't really see it.
You guys gotta trust me. There's like a pressed in dot right there. That's gonna be this second one. Goes in right there. Then the dot faces up. So we'll jam that in there. And same thing, just kind of get it in there. This one, next one doesn't have a direction. You can place this in. So we'll usually put them on the opposite side of that one. So we'll just drop that in right there.
Like the gap's 180 degrees.
Right, they're across from each other basically. Pops right in. So, James over here, he's built way more of these than I have, so he's going to explain to you how he orients these.
Okay, so what we're doing here, if you want to come and zoom in on the piston, I'll show you how I orient the rings. So the dot on the front of the piston shows direction, front of the engine, right? So the way I've always done it is take the ring, start at the bottom, work your way up. If you look at the oil expander itself, where the two ends butt together, looks like the little letter M. That always faces me. That's how I've always remembered it. Use that as the letter M. Okay, then I come to the left, over the top of the piston pin. I'll have one ring there, centered, as best I can. These are a little sticky. So that one there, over the top of the pin, 180 degrees out, I'll have the other one. Then when I come up to the compression rings, I'll use the second ring facing me, again the M, just above it. That one faces me, 180 degrees out. I've got the other compression ring sitting there. And then you just put the compressor on it and put it in. Okay?
Right on.
All right. Okay, so we're back. We're going to put the compressor on the rings at this point. Again, I do everything with my left hand. Right hand's a strong hand. Dot facing forward of the engine. Put the compressor on. I hold it with my left thumb. And then I just crank it down. And then once it's tight, it may or may not stay centered. So what you do is once it's in the block, you tap the top and get it centered, or level I should say, and then you run it home. And that's what the top of it will look like with the rings compressed. All right.
Drop our new bearing in there.
Yes, sir.
So we put the new bearing in. Wipe the back side, make sure there's no dirt, grit, anything like that. And then same with the rod there. We're gonna line up the groove, see a little notch on the bearing there.
Hang on.
The edge.
I can't see it. That's about as good as it's gonna get.
Alright, you guys gotta trust me. There's a notch on this bearing that lines up with a notch in the rod. There's two of them there, but it'll line up with one of them.
And the tang is right there. You set the tang in place.
Pop it in.
That's it. That's how you install the bearing.
There we go. So we'll put some assembly lube on it at WD-40.
Okay.
We'll try to drop a little bit in the, kind of in the bolt hole too. And then in the bearing, and just a little bit there. Stuff's kind of messy. Which way you want to go?
Doesn't matter either way. A little more. That's good there. All right, so what we need to do then.
It's easier with two people. I'm going to grab the bottom of the rod to make sure it's not banging around in the cylinder. Just to kind of keep it out of off the cylinder walls while he punches in.
Okay, square up the ring compressor, and then we start hitting it in.
Okay, you're coming through. All right.
You good?
Yep.
That's it. You ready?
Yep.
What Chris is doing now is guiding the rod onto the crank journal itself.
Show him. You're on.
You're in.
We got our new bolts and a cap. Put a little WD-40 on them, on the bolts. James keeps dropping the bearing. That's awesome.
It is 4 o'clock in the morning.
I've already cleaned that surface and the rod cap there, and then plastic gauge.
There you go, sir.
Thank you. I'm gonna get the plastic gauge for us, OJ. So we're gonna check clearance on this and put some plastic gauge in there, just to make sure. Bearings in there.
Explain the plastic gauge a little bit.
The plastic gauge is a tiny little wire of wax, and it comes in a certain diameter. They make them in.
You can see it, but you can kind of see that green strip in there.
There you go. So they make it in 3 or 4 different sizes, and in conjunction with the different size wire, also comes different color envelope, for lack of a better term. On that is delineated a couple different sizes. You got thousands, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, for instance, on this one. And then on the opposite side, they have it listed in metric as well. For this engine, it wants about 2.5 thousandths clearance. So what you do, in order to measure the clearance, you put the little piece of wax on there, you put the cap on dry, and then you compress it.
You see the little green piece on there?
Right there.
Yeah.
All right, cap's dry, bearings dry. I'm gonna put this down and torque it down and read it.
Now the bottom side of the cap is not dry. We did put the Ultra Slick on it to begin with. The reason we're doing that is just for ease. We'll tear it back apart and then oil it again. This is a used engine. The crank has got some miles on it. With that, we know there's going to be a lot of clearance in it anyway. So we're just checking it just to be safe.
All right, so these are similar to the main caps where you had to torque them first to 15 foot-pounds. And then this one goes another 60 degrees as opposed to 80 with the caps, I think it was.
80 and 52, correct?
Right, so these will be 15 degrees, and then we'll switch it to, or I'm sorry, 15 foot-pounds, and then we'll switch it to 60 degrees. $60 degrees. So now we will pull the caps off, check the plastic gauge, and hopefully it's within spec. And if it is, we can put the assembly lube on it and then crank it down and torque it down for good. Leave it, hopefully. All right.
Okay. So on this one here, it's looks like touch wider than 2,000ths, probably in the 1,800 range, 18 thousandths range, which is sufficient. Remember the spec is what, 0009 to 2.5, I think, if I remember right. So that'll be fine. So we'll clean that off. WD-40 will clean it off, and then we'll grease it up and do it the final time.
Right there. So now if everything worked out right, we should be able to spin this pretty easy. So fingers crossed, nothing's binding, and we turn.
Sounds pretty well.
Good with that?
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, so that's pretty much it for tonight. So what we're gonna do is just paint it real quick. I'm just gonna paint it black, and then we'll let it dry overnight, and we'll keep working on it tomorrow, probably tomorrow evening, and keep it going. So we'll get back with you then. That's it for tonight.